In this video, I will show you how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. In order to solve by factoring, your equation has to be equal to 0. And here is why. In this example, you see how we have two factors, n plus 8 and n minus 2. And they are multiplied to each other. So when you have two numbers that are multiplied to 0, if you think about this, have a number times another number equal to 0. What do we know at least one of these numbers have to be? One of them has to be 0. So either the first one can be 0 or the second one can be 0, because 0 times anything is equal to 0. So now we can set each of the factors equal to 0. So we have n plus 8 equal to 0 and n minus 2 equal to 0. So let's solve each one of them. So to solve this, we need to bring the 8 to the other side, so that becomes a minus 8. 0 minus 8 is negative 8. Or if you think about that, we can just do that in our heads. That plus 8, move it to the other side, becomes a negative 8. So n equals to negative 8. And we can do the same thing for the second one. This negative 2, move it to the other side, becomes a positive 2. So as you can see, once you have the factors, and it is equal to 0, you can easily get the answer quickly in your head. For this example, we have 3x plus 7 that we can set equal to 0, and 2x minus 1 that we can also set equal to 0. So let's go ahead and solve the 3x plus 7. So first, we need to move the 7 to the other side, so that becomes a negative 7. 0 minus 7 is negative 7. And we bring down the 3x. Now to get the x by itself, we need to divide by 3, because 3 is being multiplied to the x. So divide by 3. So we get negative 7 over 3, which is a fraction. And let's leave that as a fraction. And as you can see, we can also do this type in our heads as well. So look at the second factor. We need to move the negative 1. Don't move the 2, because the 2 is being multiplied to the variable. So move the negative 1, that becomes a positive 1. And then we need to divide by the coefficient, so 1 over 2. For this example, our two factors are n and n plus 2. So we know to set each of these equal to 0. So the first one, we already have the answer, n is equal to 0. There's nothing to solve. N is already by itself. For the second one, we can do this in our heads, n plus 2. So move the 2 to the other side, becomes a negative 2. And so there's no coefficient to divide by, so that is the answer, n equal negative 2. For this example, the answer is simply m equal to positive 6, and we only have one answer. To see why, the reason is because n minus 6 squared, what that really means is we have two factors that are exactly the same multiplied to each other. So we have n minus 6 multiplied by n minus 6 equal to 0. And each of these factors give you the answer of m equal to positive 6. So because they're the same, we only have one solution, m equal to positive 6. So now we will use what we just learned to solve equations by factoring. So before you begin, you need to check two things. On the right side, it has to be equal to 0. And on the left side, it needs to be in standard form, which we have x squared, then the 5x, then the constant, negative 24. So everything is in the correct order and is equal to 0, so we can factor. Because we don't have anything in the front, all we need to do is break up the 24. So 24 is, we can try 6 times 4. Then start with the bigger number. We're trying to get a negative 5, so this bigger number has to be positive 5, so the bigger number has to be positive. Now, 6 plus 4 is 10, but 6 minus 4 is 2, so there's no way to get a 5. So this combination does not work. We can try 3 times 8. So starting with the bigger number, the 8 has to be positive. And 8 plus 3 is 11, but 8 minus 3 is positive 5. And then when we multiply this, negative 3 times positive 8 is negative 24, so that checks. So the factors are x minus 3 and x plus 8 equal to 0. which means that the answers are x equal to positive 3, so move the negative 3 is positive 3, or x is equal to negative 8. So for this example, the equation is equal to 0, which is good, and the left side is in standard form. We have k squared, and then the k, and then the constant 3. So everything is also in the correct order. So we can try factoring this. So let's break up the 4. 1 times 4 is 4, and for the 3, we can try 1 times 3, and then we cross multiply. 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 1 is 4, but a 4 and a 3, if we add that, that's a 7. If we subtract that, that's a 1. So that combination does not work. We can try 1 times 4, and then flip the 1 and 3 to become 3 times 1. 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 3 is 12. We are trying to get a positive 8, so the bigger number needs to be a positive, but 12 plus 1 is 13, and 12 minus 1 is 11. So that still does not work. Let's try to break up 4 with 2 times 2 instead. And then 3, we can only do 1 times 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. And if we make both of them positive, that adds up to be positive 8, which is what we want. Now copy the positive signs over here. Double check. Positive times positive is a positive. So now we can write our factors. It's going to be 2k plus 1 and 2k plus 3. Which means that for the solutions, we have k equal, move the positive 1, that becomes a negative 1, then divide by 2, negative 1 over 2, or k equal, move the 3, becomes a negative 3, negative 3 over 2. That's the two solutions. For this example, so we look at it and see that it is not in the correct form. We need to have a 0 on the right side. And on the left side, everything needs to be in standard form. So we first need the 5m squared. After that, we need the 3m first. So this positive 3m needs to move over, becomes a negative 3m on the left side. And then we need the constant, this positive 8, comes over, becomes a negative 8. Now we can factor this. So 5, we can try 1 times 5. For 8, we can try 2 times 4. So cross multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. And we're trying to get a negative 3. So this negative 10 plus 4 or negative 10 minus 4, neither of that works. So let's try flipping it. 1 and 5 and 4 and 2. So we have 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 5 is 20. Let's make the 20 negative, but that still would not work, so we need to try different numbers. So 1 and 5. Let's try 1 and 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 5 times 1 is 5. Now the bigger number needs to be negative, so let's put the negative on 8. And then negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3. So copy the signs over. And double check. A positive times a negative is a negative, so that works. The factors are going to be 1m plus 1, but instead of writing 1m, we can just write m plus 1. That will make your answer simpler to do. And then 5m minus 8. Now for the two solutions, we have m equal negative 1. By moving the positive 1 over, or m equal, move the negative 8, so positive 8, divide by the coefficient, 8 over 5.